There is a room. You cannot see it, but you can feel it. The air is thick with anticipation, heavy with the breath of dozens of people waiting for something they cannot name. The temperature rises slightly, not from heat but from the collective energy of bodies leaning forward, hearts beating in a rhythm that synchronizes without anyone noticing. In this room, someone is about to speak. You do not know their name yet, but you will remember it, not because of what they say, but because of how they make you feel when they say it. The silence breaks. A voice cuts through the atmosphere like a blade through silk, smooth and certain. The words themselves are unremarkable, perhaps even hollow if you were to write them down and examine them in the cold light of analysis. But here, in this moment, they land with the weight of truth. The speaker stands with shoulders back, chin elevated just enough to suggest authority without arrogance, eyes scanning the crowd with a gaze that seems to see into each person individually, while somehow encompassing everyone at once. This is confidence. Or is it? Before we continue, a warning. The knowledge that is about to be shared cannot be unlearned. It will permanently change the way you see human relationships. If you are ready to abandon comfortable illusions and see what is behind the stage, subscribe now, because this is not just a video. It is the beginning of your journey under the mask. Now let us begin. The phenomenon we are about to explore lives in the space between perception and reality, in that trembling boundary where what we believe becomes more powerful than what is true. It is the reason why boardrooms fill with the voices of those who speak loudest rather than wisest, why stages are commanded by performers who have mastered the art of seeming rather than being, why we hand over our trust, our money, our very sense of direction to individuals who possess nothing more substantial than the appearance of knowing where they are going. Let us return to that room. The speaker continues, and with each sentence, something invisible but undeniable spreads through the audience. It is not agreement, not yet. It is something more primal, more ancient. It is the recognition of an alpha, the identification of a leader, the surrender to someone who appears to have conquered the very thing that terrifies most human beings: uncertainty. Watch closely now, not with your eyes, but with that deeper sense that reads the room, that feels the shift in energy. The speaker pauses. The pause is not accidental. It is calculated, though perhaps not consciously. It creates space, and into that space rushes the audience's need to fill the void, to lean in, to want more. This is the first secret. Confidence, real or performed, creates a vacuum that others rush to fill with their own projections, their own desperate hope that someone, somewhere, knows what they are doing. The faker understands this at a level that bypasses conscious thought. They have learned, through trial and error or through some instinctive genius, that human beings are not primarily rational creatures. We are pattern-seeking, story-believing, hierarchy-building animals who would rather follow a confident fool than a hesitant genius. Consider the weight of this. In your own life, count the moments when you deferred to someone not because of their credentials, not because of proven results, but simply because they seemed sure. The job interview, where the less qualified candidate radiated certainty while you stumbled over your genuine expertise. The meeting where the loudest voice shaped the decision, drowning out the quiet wisdom in the corner. The relationship where you ignored your intuition because someone told you with such conviction that you were wrong, that you began to doubt your own perception of reality. The texture of fake confidence has a particular quality. It is smooth, perhaps too smooth, like a stone polished by a river until all the rough edges of doubt and nuance have been worn away. Real confidence, the kind built on genuine competence and self-knowledge, carries with it a certain humility, an acknowledgement of complexity, an awareness of what is not known. But fake confidence cannot afford such luxuries. It must be absolute, unwavering, because the moment doubt creeps in, the entire structure threatens to collapse. Imagine now a different scene. A boardroom, glass and steel, the kind of space designed to intimidate, to remind everyone present of the seriousness of capital and consequence. Around a long table sit 12 people, each carrying their own anxieties hidden behind professional masks. A decision must be made, and it is not a simple one. There are variables, risks, unknowns that multiply the more deeply anyone examines them. The tension in the room is palpable, a tightness in chests, a dryness in throats. Then someone speaks. Not the most experienced person in the room, not the one with the most data, but the one who has mastered the performance. Their voice does not waver. Their body language suggests no internal conflict. They present a plan with such clarity, such certainty, that it feels like relief washing over the room. The others, exhausted by ambiguity, grateful for any path forward, begin to nod. Questions that should be asked remain unspoken, because to question this confidence feels like introducing chaos back into a space that has just found order. This is the second secret. We follow fake confidence not despite our intelligence, but because of our exhaustion. The modern world bombards us with complexity, with choices, with information that contradicts itself hourly. We are tired. We are overwhelmed. And into this fatigue walks someone who offers the gift of certainty, even if that certainty is built on nothing more substantial than their willingness to pretend they have answers. The psychology here runs deeper than simple deception. It touches on something fundamental about human consciousness and our relationship with the unknown. We are creatures who evolved to make quick decisions in environments where hesitation meant death. The rustle in the grass, predator or wind. Our ancestors who paused to carefully analyze the probability survived less often than those who simply ran. This legacy lives in our nervous systems, in the way our brains are wired to prefer any decision over no decision, any direction over paralysis. The confident faker, whether they know it or not, is exploiting this ancient circuitry. They are offering our primitive brain what it craves: a clear signal in the noise, a direction in the chaos, a leader to follow so that we can stop bearing the exhausting weight of uncertainty. And our rational mind, that newer part of our brain that prides itself on logic and analysis, often arrives too late to the party, finding itself in the position of justifying a decision that was made in the deeper, older parts of our psyche. Let us examine the mechanics of the performance itself. How does one fake confidence convincingly enough to move masses, to shape decisions, to alter the course of events? It begins with the body. Stand in front of a mirror, if you can imagine one, and observe the difference between these two postures. First, let your shoulders curve forward slightly. Let your gaze drop. Allow your weight to shift uncertainly from foot to foot. Feel how this posture creates a feedback loop, how the body's uncertainty reinforces the mind's doubt. Now, pull your shoulders back, lift your chin, plant your feet firmly, and let your gaze settle steadily on a point in the distance. Feel how this posture, even if adopted artificially, begins to generate a sensation that could be mistaken for confidence. The faker has learned this lesson well. They have discovered that confidence is not only an internal state that manifests externally, but also an external performance that generates internal states, both in themselves and in others. By adopting the physical markers of certainty, they trigger in observers an automatic response, a recognition pattern that says, "This person knows what they are doing." The body speaks a language older than words, and it is harder to disbelieve. But the performance extends beyond the physical. Listen to the voice of fake confidence. It has certain characteristics that distinguish it from both genuine confidence and obvious uncertainty. The pace is measured, never rushed, because rushing suggests anxiety. The volume is controlled, loud enough to command attention, but not so loud as to suggest compensation for insecurity. The tone is declarative rather than questioning, statements rather than proposals, assertions rather than suggestions. More subtly, notice the language patterns. The confident faker eliminates qualifiers, those small words that acknowledge complexity. Maybe, perhaps, possibly. It seems, I think. Instead, their sentences are clean and absolute. This is, we will, it works, the answer is. They trade accuracy for impact, nuance for clarity, truth for persuasiveness. And in most contexts, especially those governed by time pressure and social dynamics, this trade works devastatingly well. There is a particular moment in the performance that deserves special attention. It is the moment when someone challenges the faker, when a question is asked that threatens to expose the emptiness behind the facade. Watch what happens. Feel the shift in the room's energy. A person with genuine confidence might pause, consider the question, acknowledge its validity, perhaps even admit uncertainty. But the faker cannot afford this. Instead, they do something remarkable. They reframe. The challenge is not met directly, but is instead redirected, transformed, made to seem irrelevant or already answered. The faker might respond with a question of their own, turning the spotlight back on the challenger. They might acknowledge the question in a way that suggests it is too basic or too obvious to warrant detailed response. They might expand the frame so broadly that the specific challenge gets lost in a flood of tangential information. What they will not do is admit doubt, because doubt is the crack through which the entire performance could crumble. Consider the emotional experience of being in the presence of fake confidence. There is often a strange mixture of feelings, a cognitive dissonance that we may not fully acknowledge even to ourselves. On one level, we feel reassured, relieved, grateful for the clarity and direction being offered. On another level, something deeper, more intuitive, sends up quiet warning signals. The rational mind says, "This person seems to know what they are talking about." The gut whispers, "Something is not quite right here." Most of us have been trained to distrust that gut feeling, to privilege the rational over the intuitive, to dismiss our deeper knowing as mere emotion or bias. This training serves the confident faker well. It creates a population of people who will override their own accurate instincts in favor of someone else's performed certainty. We gaslight ourselves, telling ourselves that our discomfort is our own insecurity, our own lack of understanding, rather than a valid response to something genuinely false. This brings us to a darker territory, to the question of harm. Is fake confidence merely a neutral tool, a social lubricant that helps groups make decisions and move forward? Or does it carry with it a cost, a price paid in poor decisions, misplaced trust, and the gradual erosion of our ability to distinguish between substance and performance? The answer, like most truths about human behavior, is not simple. There are contexts where a degree of performed confidence serves a social good. The surgeon who must project calm certainty even when facing a complicated procedure, not because they are faking competence, but because their patient's nervous system needs the reassurance. The leader who must maintain composure during a crisis, not because they have all the answers, but because panic is contagious and someone must hold the center. These are performances in service of a greater truth, a deeper competence. But there is another kind of fake confidence, the kind that serves only itself, that accumulates power and resources and influence while delivering nothing of substance in return. This is the confidence of the con artist, the charlatan, the demagogue. And the line between the two types is not always clear, even to the performer themselves. Many who begin by faking confidence until they develop real competence find themselves trapped in the performance, unable to admit the gaps in their knowledge, unable to step back from the persona they have created. Think of the entrepreneur who raises millions on the strength of their pitch, their vision, their unshakable belief in a product that does not yet exist and may never work. Are they a visionary or a fraud? The answer may not be knowable until years later, and even then, it may depend on factors beyond their control. But in the moment of the pitch, in the room with the investors, what matters is not the reality of the product, but the reality of the performance. The confidence must be absolute, because investors are not buying a product, they are buying a story, and the story requires a protagonist who believes without doubt. Now let us turn the lens inward, toward ourselves. This is where the exploration becomes uncomfortable, where the mask we have been examining begins to feel familiar, perhaps too familiar. How many times have you performed confidence you did not feel? How many times have you spoken with certainty about things you only partially understood? How many times have you projected an image of having it all together while internally drowning in doubt? If you are honest, the answer is many times, perhaps daily, perhaps in this very moment. Because here is the truth that complicates our judgment of the confident faker. We are all, to some degree, performing. The line between healthy self-presentation and fraudulent confidence is not a clear boundary, but a spectrum. And most of us move along that spectrum depending on context, stakes, and our own internal state. The job interview is perhaps the most universal example. You sit across from strangers who will decide your economic fate based on a brief conversation. You know that appearing uncertain or doubtful will cost you the opportunity. So you perform. You speak about your skills with more certainty than you feel. You project an image of competence that may be aspirational rather than actual. You fake it, hoping to make it, because the alternative is to be honest about your limitations and watch the opportunity go to someone more willing to perform. Is this wrong? Is this harmful? Or is this simply the price of admission to a world that rewards performance over authenticity? The question has no easy answer, but it points to a larger truth about the society we have constructed. We have created systems that select for confidence over competence, for performance over substance, for the ability to sell oneself over the ability to deliver. And then we act surprised when those systems elevate fakers, when boardrooms fill with confident incompetence, when leaders emerge who are better at seeming than being. The mechanism by which fake confidence spreads through social systems is worth examining in detail. It begins with a single successful performance. Someone projects confidence, receives a positive response, and learns that the performance works. This success reinforces the behavior, making it more likely to be repeated and refined. Others observe the success and, consciously or unconsciously, begin to imitate the pattern. Over time, the performance becomes normalized, expected, required. In environments where this dynamic has been operating for a long time, you find a strange inversion. The person who admits uncertainty, who acknowledges complexity, who speaks with appropriate humility about the limits of their knowledge, is perceived as weak, as lacking leadership qualities, as unsuitable for positions of authority. Meanwhile, the person who speaks in absolutes, who projects unwavering certainty, who never admits doubt, rises through the ranks regardless of their actual track record. This creates a selection pressure, an evolutionary force within organizations and societies that favors a particular phenotype, the confident performer. And like all selection pressures, it shapes the population over time. Those who cannot or will not perform confidence are filtered out, while those who master the performance thrive and reproduce, not genetically but mimetically, passing on their techniques to the next generation of ambitious climbers. The cost of this system is paid in failures that could have been prevented, in disasters that were predicted by the quiet voices drowned out by confident assertions, in the slow accumulation of decisions made for the wrong reasons by the wrong people. But the cost is diffuse, spread across many people and long-time horizons, while the benefits of the performance are immediate and personal. This asymmetry ensures the pattern's persistence. Let us explore a specific case, a story that illuminates the phenomenon. Imagine a woman. We will call her Sarah, though her name could be anything, because this story is everyone's story. Sarah works in marketing for a mid-sized company. She is competent, creative, hardworking. She knows her field well, but she also knows the limits of her knowledge. When asked questions, she tends to think before answering, to consider multiple angles, to acknowledge when something is outside her expertise. In meetings, Sarah notices a pattern. Her colleague, we will call him Marcus, speaks with a confidence that seems to come from somewhere beyond mere knowledge. When clients ask difficult questions, Marcus answers immediately, his voice steady, his manner assured. Sarah often thinks his answers are oversimplified, sometimes even misleading, but she notices that clients respond positively. They nod, they smile, they seem relieved to have clear answers rather than complex ones. Over time, Sarah watches as Marcus receives promotions, praise, opportunities that she does not. The feedback she receives is always the same. She needs to be more confident, more decisive, more willing to take a strong position. The irony is not lost on her. She is being told to be less accurate, less thoughtful, less honest about complexity. She is being told to perform the very thing she has been trained to distrust, false certainty. Sarah faces a choice that many face. She can maintain her integrity, continue to speak with appropriate nuance and humility, and accept that this may limit her advancement. Or she can learn to perform, to adopt a mask of confidence even when she does not feel it, to simplify her answers and strengthen her delivery. There's no right answer here, only trade-offs, only the navigation of a system that rewards performance over substance. Let us say Sarah chooses to adapt. She begins to study Marcus, to observe the techniques he uses. She notices how he maintains eye contact, how he eliminates qualifiers from his speech, how he responds to challenges with redirection rather than admission. She practices in front of a mirror, feels foolish at first, but gradually begins to internalize the performance. Her voice becomes steadier, her posture more commanding, her answers more declarative. The results are immediate and undeniable. In her next client meeting, Sarah speaks with a confidence she does not entirely feel. She simplifies her answers, eliminates the caveats and considerations that used to characterize her speech. The client responds exactly as she has seen them respond to Marcus, with relief, with trust, with the visible relaxation of someone who believes they are in capable hands. After the meeting, her manager pulls her aside to compliment her on her improved executive presence. Sarah feels a complex mixture of emotions. There is satisfaction in the recognition, in the validation that her performance worked. There's also a subtle sense of loss, a feeling that she has crossed a line, that she has traded something valuable for something expedient. She tells herself that she is still competent, that the confidence is just packaging around genuine skill. But she also knows that the line between packaging and product is not as clear as she would like it to be. Months pass. Sarah continues to refine her performance. She finds that the more she performs confidence, the more confident she actually begins to feel. This is not entirely positive. She notices that she is less likely to question her own assumptions, less open to input that contradicts her position, less willing to admit when she does not know something. The performance is changing her, not just how others see her, but how she sees herself. This is the third secret. Fake confidence does not remain fake. The mask, worn long enough, begins to fuse with the face. The performance, repeated enough times, becomes the personality. We are not static beings with fixed essences that remain unchanged beneath our social presentations. We are fluid, shaped by our behaviors, transformed by our performances. When we fake confidence, we do not just deceive others, we deceive ourselves, and over time, the deception becomes a kind of truth. This phenomenon has been studied by psychologists under various names: cognitive dissonance, self-perception theory, the looking glass self. The core insight is the same. We infer our internal states from our external behaviors. If we act confident, we begin to believe we are confident. If we perform certainty, we begin to feel certain. The feedback loop between behavior and belief is bidirectional, and the faker who begins as a conscious performer may end as a genuine believer in their own performance. This transformation has profound implications. It means that the distinction between real and fake confidence is not as stable as we might wish. It means that someone can start as a fraud and become, through the alchemy of repeated performance, something closer to the real thing. It also means that someone with genuine confidence can lose it by failing to perform, by allowing doubt to show, by breaking character. Consider the broader social implications. We live in an age of performance, where social media has turned everyone into a personal brand, where the line between private self and public presentation has become increasingly blurred. The pressure to project confidence, success, happiness is constant and pervasive. We curate our images, filter our photos, craft our posts to show only the highlights, the victories, the moments of certainty and joy. What does this constant performance do to us? What happens to a society where everyone is faking confidence? Where the performance has become so normalized that authenticity itself seems like a failure of nerve. We create a hall of mirrors, where everyone is performing for everyone else, when no one is quite sure what is real anymore. Where the exhaustion of maintaining the facade becomes a background hum of modern life. The paradox is that this universal performance makes us more, not less, vulnerable to the confident faker. When everyone is performing at a moderate level, the person who performs at an extreme level stands out. They seem more real, more authentic, precisely because their performance is so total, so committed, that it transcends obvious fakery and becomes something else. A kind of hyperreality, more convincing than the real thing, because it has been optimized for convincing. This is why cult leaders, demagogues, and charismatic frauds often succeed, not despite the sophistication of their audience, but because of it. A population trained in performance recognizes and responds to a master performer. They see someone who has achieved what they are all attempting. The complete fusion of mask and face, the total commitment to a projected self. And they follow, not because they are stupid or gullible, but because they recognize in the faker an idealized version of what they themselves are trying to become. Let us examine the specific techniques that master performers use, the subtle tools of the trade that separate amateur fakers from professionals. First, there is the technique of strategic vulnerability. The amateur faker tries to project invulnerability, to never show weakness or doubt. But the master understands that this is too obvious, too perfect to be believed. Instead, they reveal carefully chosen vulnerabilities, small admissions of past failures or current challenges that make them seem human, relatable, authentic. These revelations are not random. They are calculated to enhance rather than undermine the overall impression of confidence. The master might admit to a failure from long ago, now overcome, which serves to highlight their growth and resilience. They might acknowledge a current challenge in an area peripheral to their main claim of expertise, which makes their confidence in their core domain seem more credible by contrast. They might show emotion at strategic moments, a crack in the facade that suggests depth and authenticity, while never actually threatening the fundamental performance. Second, there's the technique of borrowed authority. The master faker understands that confidence is more convincing when it appears to be backed by external validation. They drop names, cite credentials, reference associations with prestigious institutions or individuals. These references may be tangential, exaggerated, or carefully framed to suggest more connection than actually exists, but they serve to transfer authority from established sources to the faker themselves. The psychology here is subtle. We are cognitive misers, taking mental shortcuts to avoid the exhausting work of evaluating every claim on its merits. When someone references Harvard or mentions a famous mentor or cites a study from a prestigious journal, we tend to extend some of the credibility of those sources to the person making the reference, often without checking the actual nature or relevance of the connection. Third, there's the technique of certainty about the uncertain. The master faker makes bold predictions, offers definitive answers to questions that do not have definitive answers, speaks with clarity about inherently ambiguous situations. This is risky, because predictions can be proven wrong, but the master understands two things that make the risk worthwhile. First, most predictions are about the future, and by the time the future arrives to prove them wrong, the audience has moved on, the context has changed, and the faker can reframe or simply ignore their past certainty. Second, people remember the feeling of certainty more than the content of predictions. Even when proven wrong, the faker who spoke with confidence is remembered as someone who seemed to know what they were talking about. Fourth, there is the technique of controlling the frame. The master faker does not just answer questions. They shape what questions are asked, what topics are discussed, what criteria are used to evaluate success. They are proactive rather than reactive, setting the agenda rather than responding to it. This allows them to play to their strengths, to avoid areas where their lack of substance might be exposed, to define the terms of engagement in ways that favor their performance. Watch how this works in practice. In a meeting, the master faker speaks first, framing the issue in a particular way. Others then respond within that frame, accepting its premises even if those premises are questionable. By the time someone might think to challenge the frame itself, the discussion has moved on, decisions have been made, and the faker's initial framing has become the accepted reality. Fifth, there is the technique of social proof. The master faker cultivates a following, a group of supporters or believers who provide external validation of their confidence. This creates a bandwagon effect, where others are influenced not just by the faker themselves, but by the fact that other people seem to believe in them. We are social creatures, deeply influenced by what others think and do, and the faker who can demonstrate that others follow them becomes exponentially more convincing. This technique is particularly powerful in the age of social media, where follower counts, likes, and shares provide quantifiable social proof. The faker with a large following is assumed to have earned that following through some combination of expertise and value, when in reality, the following may have been built through the very techniques of performance we are examining. The social proof becomes self-reinforcing. People follow because others follow, and the faker's confidence seems validated by the crowd, which attracts more followers, which provides more validation. Now let us consider the perspective of the follower, the person who chooses to believe in and follow the confident faker. What is happening in their psychology? Why do intelligent, capable people hand over their trust, and sometimes their resources, to someone whose confidence may be entirely performed. The first factor is the desire for certainty in an uncertain world. We have touched on this already, but it bears deeper examination. The human mind is not well designed for sustained uncertainty. Ambiguity creates anxiety, a low-level stress that accumulates over time. When someone offers a certainty, even false certainty, there's a physiological relief, a reduction in the stress hormones that have been flooding our system. This relief feels good, and we associate that good feeling with the person who provided it, creating a positive feedback loop that makes us want to return to them, to continue following them. The second factor is the desire for belonging. Following a confident leader is not just an individual act, but a social one. It connects us to others who are also following, creates a sense of shared purpose and identity. Humans are tribal creatures, and the confident faker often serves as a tribal leader, a focal point around which a community can form. To question the faker is not just to question an individual, but to risk one's place in the tribe, to threaten the social bonds that have formed around the shared belief. The third factor is the desire to believe in something larger than oneself. The confident faker often offers not just answers but vision, not just solutions but meaning. They tell a story in which the follower plays a part, in which their actions matter, in which they are contributing to something important. This narrative is intoxicating, especially in a world that often feels meaningless, where individual actions seem insignificant against the scale of global problems and systemic forces. The fourth factor is the sunk cost fallacy. Once someone has invested time, energy, money, or reputation in following a confident faker, they become psychologically committed to justifying that investment. To admit that the faker was fake is to admit that one was fooled, that one's judgment was flawed, that one's investment was wasted. This is painful, and the mind will go to great lengths to avoid this pain, often by doubling down on belief even in the face of contradictory evidence. Consider the follower who has spent years believing in a particular guru, leader, or expert. They have organized their life around this person's teachings, made decisions based on their advice, perhaps even evangelized to others. When evidence emerges that the guru is a fraud, that the teachings are baseless, that the confidence was performed, the follower faces a crisis. They can accept the evidence and face the pain of having been wrong, or they can reject the evidence and maintain their belief. Many choose the latter, not because they are stupid, but because the psychological cost of the former is too high. This dynamic explains why cults persist even after their predictions fail, why fraudulent schemes continue to attract investors even after being exposed, why charismatic leaders maintain followers even after being revealed as charlatans. The followers are not necessarily gullible or irrational. They are human, subject to the same psychological forces that affect us all, trapped in a web of cognitive biases and emotional investments that make belief easier than doubt. Let us return now to the question of harm. We have established that fake confidence is pervasive, that it is often rewarded, that it can even transform into something resembling real confidence through repeated performance. But what is the cost? What damage is done when we build systems and make decisions based on performed rather than genuine certainty? The most obvious harm is in the quality of decisions. When confidence rather than competence determines who leads and whose ideas are implemented, we get suboptimal outcomes. Projects fail, investments lose money, policies produce unintended consequences. These failures are often attributed to bad luck or unforeseen circumstances, but many could be traced back to the moment when a confident faker's voice drowned out a more knowledgeable but less certain expert. The second harm is in the erosion of trust. When people repeatedly discover that the confidence they trusted was performed, that the certainty they relied on was false, they become cynical. They begin to assume that everyone is faking, that all confidence is performance, that there is no such thing as genuine expertise or authentic certainty. This cynicism is corrosive to social cooperation, making it harder for people to work together, to trust institutions, to believe in shared projects. The third harm is in the distortion of values. When we reward performance over substance, we send a message about what matters. Young people observing the world learn that success comes not from deep knowledge or careful thought, but from the ability to project confidence, to sell oneself, to perform certainty regardless of actual understanding. This shapes how they invest their time and energy, potentially creating a generation more skilled in performance than in substance. The fourth harm is more subtle, but perhaps most profound. It is the harm done to truth itself, to our collective ability to distinguish between what is real and what is performed. When fake confidence becomes normalized, when the performance is so pervasive that it becomes invisible, we lose our calibration. We no longer know what genuine confidence looks like, what appropriate certainty sounds like, what the difference is between someone who knows and someone who performs knowing. This loss of calibration has consequences that ripple through every domain of human activity. In science, it makes it harder to distinguish between solid research and flashy claims. In politics, it makes it harder to distinguish between genuine leadership and demagoguery. In business, it makes it harder to distinguish between viable ventures and elaborate frauds. In personal relationships, it makes it harder to distinguish between authentic connection and manipulative performance. Yet even as we catalog these harms, we must acknowledge uncomfortable truth. Fake confidence sometimes works, not just in the sense of benefiting the faker, but in producing actual positive outcomes. There are situations where performed confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, where the act of projecting certainty creates the conditions for success. Consider the startup founder who raises money based on confidence in a vision that is, at the time of the pitch, more dream than reality. The confidence is, in a sense, fake, because the product does not yet exist, the market is unproven, the path to success is unclear. But the confidence attracts resources, talent, attention. These resources make it possible to build the product, test the market, find the path. The fake confidence, by attracting what was needed, becomes retroactively justified. Or consider the leader who must guide a group through a crisis. They may not know the right path, may not be certain of success, but they project confidence because the alternative is panic and paralysis. The group, reassured by the leader's certainty, maintains cohesion and continues to function. They make it through the crisis, and the leader's fake confidence is remembered as genuine leadership. These examples complicate our moral judgment. They suggest that fake confidence is not simply bad, that it can serve purposes beyond self-aggrandizement, that the line between harmful fraud and necessary performance is context-dependent and not always clear even in retrospect. This brings us to a crucial distinction: the difference between fake confidence in service of a genuine goal versus fake confidence in service of pure self-interest. The startup founder who believes in their vision and performs confidence to make it real is different from the con artist who performs confidence to extract resources with no intention of delivering value. The leader who projects certainty to maintain group cohesion during a crisis is different from the demagogue who projects certainty to accumulate personal power. But here's where it gets truly complicated. The faker themselves may not always know which category they fall into. The line between vision and delusion is thin. The startup founder may genuinely believe in their impossible dream, unable to distinguish between confidence in service of a goal and confidence as self-deception. The leader may tell themselves they're serving the group while actually serving their own ego. The capacity for self-deception is vast, and the confident faker is often their own first victim. This is perhaps the deepest secret of all. The most convincing fake confidence is the kind where the faker has convinced themselves. When the performance has been internalized so completely that the performer no longer experiences it as performance. When the mask is fused so thoroughly with the face that there is no longer a clear boundary between them. The result is something that transcends simple categories of real and fake. Let us explore this through another story. Imagine a man, we will call him David, who begins his career with genuine expertise in a narrow domain. He is good at what he does, and his confidence in that domain is earned. But as he rises through organizations, he finds himself making decisions and offering opinions on matters outside his expertise. At first, he is uncomfortable with this, aware of the limits of his knowledge. But the system rewards confidence, and David learns to perform it. He speaks with the same certainty about matters he barely understands as he does about his area of expertise. The performance works. He continues to rise. And gradually, something shifts. The discomfort fades. The awareness of his own limitations becomes less acute. He begins to believe his own performance, to feel genuinely confident even when that confidence is not warranted by his actual knowledge. David has not become stupid or deliberately fraudulent. He has simply adapted to an environment that rewards confidence over accuracy. His brain, efficient and adaptive, has reduced the cognitive dissonance of performing confidence he does not feel by adjusting his feelings to match his performance. He now genuinely believes he is as knowledgeable and capable as he appears to be. The fake confidence has become, in his subjective experience, real. This transformation is common, perhaps even typical, among those who rise to positions of power and influence. It explains why so many leaders seem genuinely surprised when their decisions produce disasters, why they appear to sincerely believe in strategies that more knowledgeable observers recognize as flawed. They are not lying, not in the conventional sense. They have simply lost the ability to distinguish between their performed confidence and actual competence. The implications of this are sobering. It means that we cannot simply identify and remove the fakers, because many of them do not know they are faking. It means that the problem is not just individual bad actors, but systemic forces that shape behavior and belief. It means that any of us, given the right circumstances and incentives, could become the confident faker we think we would recognize and resist. So what is the solution? How do we navigate a world where fake confidence is rewarded, where performance and substance are difficult to distinguish, where even the performers themselves may not know they are performing? There are no easy answers, but there are practices, habits of mind, that can help. The first practice is cultivating comfort with uncertainty. This is harder than it sounds. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, anxiety-producing, exhausting, but it is also honest. Learning to sit with not knowing, to resist the seductive pull of false certainty, to say I do not know without shame. These are acts of courage in a world that rewards the opposite. The second practice is developing better bullshit detectors. This means learning to distinguish between confidence backed by substance and confidence as pure performance. Look for specificity rather than generality, for acknowledgement of complexity rather than oversimplification, for track records rather than promises, for the ability to say I was wrong rather than the inability to admit error. These are not perfect indicators, but they are better than nothing. The third practice is questioning our own performances. When we find ourselves speaking with confidence we do not feel, we can pause and ask, why am I doing this? Is this confidence in service of something genuine? Or is it pure self-protection or self-promotion? Am I becoming the thing I claim to critique? This self-examination is uncomfortable, but necessary. The fourth practice is creating spaces and systems that reward honesty over performance. This is perhaps the hardest because it requires collective action, cultural change, institutional reform. But in our own small spheres of influence, we can choose to value substance over style, to reward those who admit uncertainty, to create environments where people feel safe being honest about what they do not know. The fifth practice is remembering that confidence and competence are not the same thing, and that the absence of confidence does not indicate the absence of competence. Some of the most knowledgeable people are the most uncertain, because they understand the complexity of their domains well enough to recognize how much they do not know. Meanwhile, some of the most confident people are the least knowledgeable because they lack the understanding necessary to recognize their own limitations. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect, the cognitive bias whereby people with low ability in a domain overestimate their competence, while those with high ability tend to underestimate theirs. The faker, often operating with limited knowledge, genuinely feels confident because they do not know enough to recognize what they are missing. The expert, aware of the vast territory of their ignorance, speaks with appropriate humility that can be mistaken for lack of confidence. Understanding this dynamic can help us recalibrate our responses. When someone speaks with absolute certainty, we can ask, is this the certainty of deep knowledge or the certainty of shallow understanding? When someone admits uncertainty, we can ask, is this the uncertainty of ignorance or the uncertainty of wisdom? The answers are not always obvious, but asking the questions is a start. Let us consider now the role of culture in shaping our relationship with confidence and performance. Different cultures have different norms around the display of confidence. The admission of uncertainty. The balance between individual assertion and collective harmony. In some cultures, projecting confidence is seen as essential to leadership and success. In others, it is seen as arrogant or inappropriate, and humility is more valued. These cultural differences affect not just how confidence is performed, but how it is perceived. A level of self-assertion that seems normal and appropriate in one cultural context may seem aggressive or off-putting in another. A degree of humility that seems wise and appropriate in one culture may seem weak or indecisive in another. The confident faker must calibrate their performance to their cultural context, and what works in one setting may fail in another. But there is a broader trend, driven by globalization and the dominance of certain cultural models, particularly American business culture, that has spread a particular style of confidence performance around the world. This style emphasizes individual achievement, self-promotion, the ability to sell oneself and one's ideas. It has become, in many contexts, the default expectation, the price of admission to global markets and institutions. This cultural homogenization has costs. It privileges those who are comfortable with self-promotion over those who are not, regardless of actual competence. It creates pressure to adopt a performance style that may feel inauthentic or uncomfortable. It potentially excludes valuable perspectives and talents from people whose cultural background has taught them different ways of demonstrating competence and leadership. Moreover, this style of confidence performance is not culturally neutral. It is gendered, raced, classed. The same behavior that is read as confident leadership when performed by a man may be read as aggressive or shrill when performed by a woman. The same self-promotion that is seen as appropriate ambition in someone from a privileged background may be seen as arrogant or presumptuous in someone from a marginalized group. The confident faker who succeeds is often someone whose identity allows their performance to be read in the most favorable light. This means that the phenomenon we are examining is not just about individual psychology, but about power, about who gets to perform confidence and have it believed, about whose certainty is trusted and whose is questioned. The playing field is not level, and the ability to fake confidence successfully is not equally distributed. Consider two people with identical levels of actual competence and identical performances of confidence. One is a white man from an upper-middle-class background, educated at prestigious institutions, speaking with the accent and mannerisms of the professional class. The other is a woman of color from a working-class background, educated at less prestigious institutions, speaking with different cultural markers. In many contexts, the first person's confidence will be more readily believed, more likely to result in opportunities and advancement, while the second person's identical confidence may be questioned, scrutinized, or read as inappropriate. This inequality compounds the harm of fake confidence. Not only do we reward performance over substance, but we reward it unequally, giving more credit to the performances of those who already have advantages. This creates a system that is doubly unjust. It elevates fakers over genuine experts, and it elevates privileged fakers over marginalized experts. The solution to this is not simple. It requires not just individual awareness, but structural change. The dismantling of biases that operate at unconscious levels, the creation of evaluation systems that are less susceptible to the distortions of performed confidence. This is work that extends far beyond the scope of individual choice, requiring collective effort and institutional transformation. But even as we acknowledge the systemic nature of the problem, we can still ask what individuals can do. We can work on our own biases, becoming aware of how we respond differently to confidence performed by different people. We can actively seek out and amplify voices that might be overlooked because they do not perform confidence in expected ways. We can create spaces where different styles of communication and leadership are valued. Let us turn now to a different dimension of the phenomenon, the relationship between fake confidence and expertise. We have been discussing fake confidence as if it is always opposed to genuine knowledge, but the reality is more complex. Many people who possess real expertise also engage in performance, projecting more confidence than their knowledge warrants, speaking with certainty about matters that are genuinely uncertain. This is particularly common in fields where expertise is real but incomplete, when knowledge exists but is surrounded by vast territories of uncertainty. A doctor may have genuine medical knowledge, but still perform confidence about a diagnosis that is actually probabilistic. An economist may have real understanding of economic principles, but still speak with certainty about future trends that are inherently unpredictable. A climate scientist may have solid data about past trends, but still project confidence about specific future scenarios that involve many unknowns. Are these experts faking confidence? In a sense, yes. They are projecting more certainty than the evidence warrants. But they are not frauds in the way a complete charlatan is a fraud. They possess real knowledge, real expertise. The performance is a layer on top of substance, not a substitute for it. This makes the moral judgment more complicated. One could argue that experts have a responsibility to communicate uncertainty accurately, to resist the pressure to perform confidence they do not feel, to educate the public about the limits of knowledge. This is the ideal of scientific communication, the aspiration to honesty about what is known and what is not. But one could also argue that experts face impossible pressures. They operate in environments where admitting uncertainty is punished, where funding goes to those who promise clear results, where media attention goes to those who make bold claims, where policy influence goes to those who speak with conviction. An expert who insists on appropriate humility may find themselves sidelined, their nuanced message lost in the noise, their influence diminished, while less scrupulous competitors thrive. This creates a tragic dilemma. The expert who maintains integrity may lose the ability to do good, while the expert who compromises by performing confidence gains influence, but at the cost of accuracy. There is no easy resolution to this dilemma, only the navigation of impossible trade-offs. Moreover, there is the question of whether the public can handle uncertainty. This is a paternalistic question, and one should be suspicious of it, but it is also a real one. When a doctor tells a patient that their diagnosis is uncertain, that the treatment may or may not work, that there are risks and unknowns, the patient may become paralyzed, unable to make decisions, consumed by anxiety. A degree of performed confidence, of simplified certainty, may be necessary for the patient to function, to choose a course of action, to maintain hope. The same dynamic operates at larger scales. When leaders communicate about crises, about threats, about necessary actions, complete honesty about uncertainty might produce panic or paralysis. A degree of performed confidence might be necessary for collective action, for social cohesion, for the maintenance of order. But where is the line between necessary simplification and harmful deception? Who gets to decide? And how do we prevent the slippery slope from justified performance to outright fraud? These questions have no definitive answers, but they point to the complexity of the phenomenon we are examining. Fake confidence is not a simple evil to be eliminated, but a complex social practice woven into the fabric of how we communicate, lead, make decisions, and navigate uncertainty together. Let us consider one more dimension, the relationship between fake confidence and innovation. There is an argument, often made in entrepreneurial and creative contexts, that a degree of irrational confidence is necessary for innovation. The person who accurately assesses the odds of success in a truly novel venture would never begin, because the odds are terrible. Most startups fail. Most creative projects go nowhere. Most attempts to do something genuinely new end in failure. The innovator, by this logic, must be somewhat delusional, must possess a confidence that is not justified by rational analysis. They must believe, against the evidence, that they will be the exception, that their project will succeed where most fail. This irrational confidence is not a bug, but a feature, not a flaw to be corrected, but a necessary ingredient in the recipe for innovation. There is truth in this argument. Many successful innovations were pursued by people whose confidence was, at the time, not justified by the evidence. They were called crazy, foolish, unrealistic. And most of the time, the critics were right. But occasionally, the confident fool succeeds, and their success changes the world. Without these confident fools, we would have less innovation, less progress, less change. But this argument can also be used to justify fraud, to excuse failures, to protect charlatans. The line between visionary and con artist is often only visible in retrospect, determined by outcomes rather than intentions or methods. The person who pursues an impossible dream with irrational confidence is a hero if they succeed, and a cautionary tale if they fail. but the confidence itself may be identical in both cases. This means we cannot simply condemn all fake confidence, because some of it may be necessary for the kind of risk-taking that drives progress. But neither can we celebrate it uncritically, because most of it leads to waste, harm, and disappointment. We are left, once again, with complexity, with the need to make judgments in specific contexts rather than applying universal rules. As we approach the end of this exploration, let us return to where we began. That room, that speaker, that moment when confidence, real or performed, captures an audience. You have been in that room. You have been that audience. Perhaps you have also been that speaker. The phenomenon we have been examining is not something external to us, something we can observe from a safe distance. It is something we participate in, something we enact, something we are. The question is not whether we will encounter fake confidence, because we will, constantly, in others and in ourselves. The question is how we will respond. Will we be aware of the dynamics at play? Or will we be unconscious participants? Will we cultivate the ability to distinguish between substance and performance? Or will we remain susceptible to the seduction of certainty? Will we create spaces that reward honesty? Or will we perpetuate systems that reward performance? These are not easy questions, and the answers will vary depending on context, on our roles, on our values. But the awareness itself is valuable. To see the mask is to gain a degree of freedom from its power. To understand the performance is to become less susceptible to it. To recognize our own participation in the dynamics of fake confidence is to gain the possibility of choosing differently. There is a final twist to consider, a meta-level irony that we cannot ignore. This very exploration, this analysis of fake confidence, is itself delivered with a degree of confidence that may not be entirely warranted. The narrator who has been guiding you through this territory, who has spoken with certainty about complex psychological and social dynamics, who has made bold claims about human behavior, is also performing. The confidence you have been experiencing, the sense that someone knows what they are talking about, is itself a construction, a performance designed to be convincing. This is not to say that everything said here is false or that the analysis is worthless, but it is to acknowledge that the phenomenon we have been examining is so pervasive, so fundamental to human communication, that even the attempt to analyze it cannot escape it. We are all performers, all wearing masks, all projecting confidence that is at least partially performed. The question is not whether we perform, but how consciously we do so, how honestly we acknowledge it, how carefully we distinguish between performance in service of truth and performance in service of deception. So as you leave this exploration and return to your life, to the rooms and conversations and decisions where confidence, real and fake, shapes outcomes, carry with you this awareness. Notice when you feel the pull of someone's certainty. Ask yourself what is creating that feeling. Is it substance or performance? Is it knowledge or the appearance of knowledge? And notice your own performances. When do you project confidence you do not feel? Why? In service of what? These questions do not have simple answers, but they are worth asking. They create a space for reflection, for choice, for the possibility of navigating the world with a bit more wisdom and a bit less susceptibility to the seductions of fake confidence. They allow us to be both participants in the human theater and observers of it, both actors wearing masks and audience members who can see the masks for what they are. The phenomenon of fake confidence is not going away. It is too deeply woven into human psychology, too strongly rewarded by our systems, too useful in navigating uncertainty. But we can change our relationship to it. We can become more conscious, more discerning, more honest. We can create pockets of culture where substance is valued over style, where honesty is rewarded over performance, where the admission of uncertainty is seen as strength rather than weakness. This is not a call for the elimination of confidence. Genuine confidence, earned through competence and self-knowledge, is valuable. It allows people to act decisively, to lead effectively, to pursue ambitious goals. The problem is not confidence itself, but the divorce of confidence from substance, the elevation of performance over reality, the reward of seeming over being. Nor is this a call for constant doubt and paralysis. Uncertainty, while honest, can be debilitating if taken to extremes. We must act in the world, make decisions, move forward, even when we do not have complete information. The question is whether we do so with awareness of our limitations or with false certainty, whether we remain open to correction or become trapped in our performances. The balance is delicate, the navigation complex, but it begins with seeing, with awareness, with the willingness to look behind the mask, both in others and in ourselves. It begins with the recognition that confidence is not always what it seems, that certainty is often performed, that the most convincing speakers may be the least knowledgeable, and that the most hesitant voices may be the wisest. In the end, the phenomenon of fake confidence reveals something fundamental about the human condition. We are creatures who must act in the face of uncertainty, who must make decisions without complete information, who must lead and follow without perfect knowledge. We have developed elaborate social mechanisms for managing this uncertainty, and confidence, real and performed, is one of those mechanisms. The challenge is to use these mechanisms wisely, to distinguish between confidence that serves us and confidence that deceives us, to create systems that reward substance over style, to cultivate in ourselves and others the courage to admit uncertainty and the wisdom to act despite it. This is not easy work. It requires constant vigilance, ongoing self-examination, the willingness to question what seems obvious and to doubt what seems certain. But it is necessary work, because the alternative is to remain unconscious participants in a system that elevates fakers, that rewards performance over competence, that makes decisions based on who speaks most confidently rather than who knows most deeply. The alternative is to continue handing over our trust, our resources, our collective future to those who have mastered the art of seeming rather than being. You now know something you cannot unknow. You have seen behind the curtain, glimpsed the mechanisms by which confidence is performed and believed. This knowledge is a burden because it makes it harder to simply trust, to simply follow, to simply believe. But it is also a gift because it gives you the power to choose more wisely, to see more clearly, to navigate the world with greater awareness. What you do with this knowledge is up to you. You can use it to become a more discerning follower, less susceptible to the seductions of fake confidence. You can use it to become a more honest leader, more willing to admit uncertainty and more careful about the confidence you project. You can use it to create spaces and systems that reward substance over performance. Or you can use it to become a more effective faker, to master the techniques we have examined, to rise through systems that reward confidence over competence. This last possibility is not mentioned to encourage it, but to acknowledge it. The knowledge we have explored is morally neutral. It can be used for good or ill, for honesty or deception, for the service of truth or the service of self. The choice is yours, and it is a choice you will make not once but repeatedly, in countless small moments and decisions throughout your life. The hope, the aspiration, is that by making the dynamics visible, by bringing awareness to what is usually unconscious, we create the possibility of choosing more wisely, that we become less susceptible to manipulation, more capable of distinguishing between substance and style, more honest in our own performances, more willing to create and support systems that value truth over appearance. This is the work of consciousness, the ongoing project of seeing clearly in a world designed to obscure, of thinking carefully in a culture that rewards quick certainty, of acting wisely in systems that reward confident performance. It is not easy work, and it is never finished. But it is the work that makes us more fully human, more capable of navigating complexity, more able to create the kind of world we want to live in. The room we began in is still there. The speaker is still speaking. The audience is still listening. But now, perhaps, you see it differently. You notice the techniques, the performance, the gap between confidence and substance. You feel the pull of certainty, but also recognize it for what it is. You are both participant and observer, both in the room and outside it, both subject to the dynamics and aware of them. This double consciousness, this ability to participate while also observing, is perhaps the most valuable outcome of this exploration. It does not remove you from the human theater, does not place you above or outside the dynamics we have examined, but it gives you a degree of freedom within them, the freedom that comes from seeing clearly, from understanding the mechanisms at play, from choosing consciously rather than reacting unconsciously. And so we arrive at the end of this particular exploration, though the phenomenon itself continues. In every room where someone speaks with confidence, in every moment when we must decide whom to trust and whom to follow, in every instance when we must choose how much certainty to project and how much doubt to admit, the curtain does not fall on this performance, because it is not a performance separate from life, but life itself, the ongoing human drama of navigating uncertainty together. What remains is the question of what you will do with this awareness. How will it change the way you listen, the way you speak, the way you lead, the way you follow? How will it shape your choices about whom to trust and how much? How will it influence the systems you create and support, the cultures you participate in, the values you embody and encourage? These questions are yours to answer in your own life, in your own way. There is no script to follow, no certain path to take. There is only the ongoing work of consciousness, the daily practice of seeing clearly and choosing wisely, the lifelong project of becoming more fully aware and more deeply human. The mask of confidence, real and fake, will always be with us. It is too fundamental to human psychology, too deeply embedded in our social structures, too useful in managing uncertainty to ever disappear. But we can change our relationship to it. We can see it more clearly, understand it more deeply, navigate it more wisely. We can become less susceptible to its seductions and more honest in our own wearing of it. This is the gift and the burden of awareness, to see what cannot be unseen, to know what cannot be unknown, to carry the weight of consciousness in a world that often rewards unconsciousness. It is not an easy gift to receive, but it is a necessary one for anyone who wishes to navigate the world with integrity, to make choices based on reality rather than appearance, to contribute to the creation of systems and cultures that value truth over performance. And so the exploration ends, but the journey continues. Every conversation you have, every leader you encounter, every decision you make, every moment when you must choose between honesty and performance, between substance and style, between what is real and what merely seems real, you will carry this awareness with you. It will inform your choices, shape your perceptions, guide your actions. The phenomenon of fake confidence is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be navigated. It is part of the human condition, woven into the fabric of how we communicate and cooperate, how we lead and follow, how we manage uncertainty and make decisions together. The question is not whether we will encounter it, but how we will respond to it. Not whether we will participate in it, but how consciously we will do so. In this navigation, there are no perfect answers, no certain paths, no guaranteed outcomes. There is only the ongoing work of awareness, the daily practice of seeing clearly, the lifelong commitment to choosing wisely. This work is difficult, often uncomfortable, sometimes lonely, but it is also liberating, empowering, deeply meaningful. Because in the end, the ability to see behind the mask, to distinguish between confidence and competence, to recognize performance for what it is, this ability is a form of freedom. It is the freedom to choose whom to trust based on substance rather than style, the freedom to lead with honesty rather than false certainty, the freedom to create and support systems that reward what is real rather than what merely seems real. This freedom is not absolute. We remain social creatures, embedded in systems and cultures that shape our choices and constrain our options. We remain subject to the same psychological forces that make fake confidence effective, the same cognitive biases that make us susceptible to performed certainty. But within these constraints, there is still room for choice, still space for agency, still the possibility of navigating more wisely. And perhaps most importantly, there is the possibility of collective change. As more people become aware of these dynamics, as more of us learn to see behind the mask, as more of us choose to value substance over performance, we create the conditions for cultural and systemic transformation. We make it a little bit harder for fakers to succeed, a little bit easier for honest voices to be heard, a little bit more likely that competence will be rewarded over confidence. This transformation will not happen quickly or easily. The forces that reward fake confidence are powerful, deeply entrenched, reinforced by countless individual choices and institutional structures. But change is possible, and it begins with awareness, with seeing clearly, with choosing differently in our own lives and spheres of influence. So as you move forward from this exploration, carry with you not just the knowledge of how fake confidence works, but the commitment to respond to it wisely. Notice when you feel the pull of someone's certainty. Question it. Look for substance beneath the style. And notice your own performances. When you project confidence, ask yourself whether it is earned, whether it serves truth, or merely serve yourself, whether you are being honest or merely effective. These practices, repeated over time, become habits. These habits, embodied by enough people, become culture. This culture, institutionalized in systems and structures, becomes the world we live in. The change begins small, with individual awareness and choice, but can grow, can spread, can transform the larger patterns that shape our collective life. This is the hope, the aspiration, the reason for undertaking this difficult exploration. Not to become cynical, not to trust no one, not to see all confidence as fake, but to become more discerning, more conscious, more capable of distinguishing between what is real and what is performed, more committed to creating a world where honesty is rewarded and substance is valued. The journey is long, the work is hard, the outcome is uncertain, but the alternative, to remain unconscious, to continue being manipulated by performed confidence, to perpetuate systems that reward style over substance, this alternative is worse. It leads to poor decisions, misplaced trust, the elevation of fakers over experts, the gradual erosion of our collective ability to distinguish truth from performance. So we choose awareness, even though it is uncomfortable. We choose consciousness, even though it is difficult. We choose to see behind the mask, even though what we see is not always pleasant. Because this seeing, this awareness, this consciousness, is the foundation of wisdom, the prerequisite for good judgment, the basis for creating a better world. And so the curtain falls on this act, but the show continues inside each of us, in the silence of our thoughts. The mask we have analyzed today, you may know it well. You may wear it, or perhaps you see it in someone you love. The comment section below is not a place for judgment. It is our stage for confessions, a safe space for observers. Use that space to share your story. What mask did you have to wear to survive? We want to hear from you. And if you felt understood here, subscribe. Because here, you are not alone. Together, we will keep unraveling human theater, one mask at a time. The next act is about to begin.